right. Christian Calcano's on your left. And we'll watch a Grixis Twin Mirror happen as both these players are 3-0. So we will get those records updated for you, and then play will be underway here in just a moment. The calculator. Look at that. Look at that. Was it cold in here? What's the deal with the hat?
He wears it a lot. It was really warm this morning in the room. They turned the AC on. Still warm. I mean, we're in North Carolina.
In June.
It's hot.
Yeah. Scott Vargas going to start off with an island. Calcano with a watery grave as round number 4 is underway here from Charlotte. There's a Scalding Tarn there for Luis. Calcano will take a draw. He'll play a Polluted Delta and he'll pass the turn back. See who's going to have the first action. A Sulfur Falls and a passing of the turn. Calcano's able to put together on his third turn of the game. He has a land as well. It's an island, and he'll pass. Luis will start by sacrificing a Scalding Tarn on the end of Calcano's end step.
And I think as long as both of these players are leaving their mana up, no one's going to be inclined to make a dramatic move. You're going to see some amount of cantripping and so forth that people draw their Serum Visions, but it's just too risky to go for the kill. You want to back it up with at least one counterspell.
Seeing that's going to enter the battlefield tapped. So he's not making any crazy moves here to start. He'll take a draw for his 4th turn of the game. There's a Scalding Tarn, a passing of the turn. Calcano will sacrifice his Polluted Delta. No surprise to see these two top-level players trying to play blue.
Yeah, I mean, with the way the stacks get in Modern, and the counterspell battles being pretty complicated because how much you care about Mana Leak, how much you care about Dispel, Spell Snare, some of the more fringe spells of the format, the stacks get very complicated. Navigating your way through those kind of games can be very tricky.
A Polluted Delta and a passing of the turn. Luis going to sacrifice his Scalding Tarn, just so that you guys are aware at home. Our attendance, which I know a lot of people are interested in, 2,870 players have come to do battle at Grand Prix Charlotte, so I want to thank each and every one of them.
Great turnout.
No surprise there.
It's funny now that we get to Grand Prix that are about 3,000 people and we think, maybe it could have been a little bit bigger, you know?
Yeah, that starts to be a disappointing number at some point.
Right.
With Luis searching up that water grave, kind of letting it known to Christian that I'm also playing Grixis Twin, so let's settle in here. We're both playing a very similar deck. There is a copy of Polluted Delta from Scott Vargas.
Well, it's possible that, you know, some people play the Grixis deck with no Twin. They're just a control deck. But in any case, play from both sides is going to be similar. They're going to respect each other's possibility of being able to break up the combo with counter spells, and it's going to be a very passive game for a little while.
There is a Steam Vent Center as the battlefield tap there for Calcano. So both players just, at this point, really feels like just a control mirror that you would find across many formats. Just let's get the lands online. Let's make sure the mana's all good to go. Maybe a little bit of cantripping here and there with a card like Serum Visions, and then the action will begin. Looks like Calcano's going to be casting a Serum Visions here.
Now, something that Luis has in his deck this weekend that may be very helpful in this matchup, 2 main deck copies of Vendilion Click. Don't see it all over the place, but being able to initiate battles at the end of Calcano's turn is very good for Luis in this matchup, and the information is very valuable as well. If Calcano's got his shields down or he has a hand that you can play through, Luis may be able to go for a kill in spots where uncertainty would prevent him from doing so normally.
Calcano has already drawn his card. Now he's trying to figure out how he wants to scry. Looks like both cards are headed to the bottom from Serum Visions. Does Christian have a land to play is the question. It looks like he's the first one to miss a land. He's got a discard Deceiver Exarch, and now we're going to head Scott Vargas' way. He's going to sacrifice Polluted Delta on Calcano's, on his own upkeep, pardon me.
And this is really bad news for Calcano because when you fall behind on land drops in a matchup where people are packing cards like Dispel and Remand, which Luis is, it doesn't take very long for Luis to be able to say, okay, well, I can push through 1 or 2 counter spells here with my mana advantage and my cheap counters.
Scott Vargas will take a draw. A couple of copies of Lightning Bolt in his hand right now. Card's not at its best in this matchup. There's a Sulfur Falls.
Now, Luis has the kill in hand right now. He has Pestermite alongside Splinter Twin. But I don't think he has any way to protect it. Just a couple copies of Lightning Bolt. So I think you're going to see Luis here wait a little bit longer.
It's really all about just kind of picking your spots in situations like this. As there's a copy of Serum Visions. Calcano will take a draw. See if he can find a land, as he discarded 2 cards to the bottom last turn. And he had to discard. Now he's got to think about some scrying action. One on top, one on bottom. He'll split the difference. He has found a land in Dreadship Reef. Well, well, well.
This is a very valuable card for Calcano in the matchup here. Because if both players are just sitting here and saying go, respecting each other's instance, Calcano can build up a significant mana advantage in the meantime.
It's been a little while since we've seen the Time Spiral uncommon. You see Vargas is going to sacrifice his Scalding Tarn, get another land out of his deck here. But these were really, really important kind of in the block constructed format, and those mystical teachings mirrors of just charging up your lands and then dumping them all out to cast multiple spells in a turn.
Yep. I mean, this land is it may look innocuous, but this is going to force Luis to act maybe a little bit faster than he would have liked. Because eventually, Calcano, even though he missed a land drop here and discarded, eventually he's going to have a mana advantage if Luis doesn't do anything.
So typically what I like to do is I like to ask you the cycle of those, if you know the names of all 5.
No, come on.
But I can't think of the green-white one or the black-red one. I'm a little ashamed of myself. Actually, I take that back. I just remember Molten Slag Heap. Boom! Here's a Serum Visions.
Typically, blue decks take advantage of a mana advantage better than the other colors.
That's true. That's true. There's Molten Slag Heap, there's Fungal Reaches. The other 2, they're kind of escaping me right now.
If I saw them on a deck list, I would know which lands they were, but off the top of my head, no.
The Reef is up to 3 right now. Looks like we're in store for a Tassiger, and we are.
And this is so potent for Calcano because Luis has to respond to this card at some point, and it only takes him 1 mana to initiate this battle.
Very efficient is Calcano with his Tassiger. Scott Vargas is going to cast a Lightning Bolt. He's got plenty of these. His first Lightning Bolt will resolve. Now it'll be a Snapcaster Mage, it appears. Luis trying to initiate a battle over this card, and this is why Spellsnare is going to be pretty good this weekend. Counters that very powerful blue card. And here's Lightning Bolt to go after Tassiger. That'll resolve. So in exchange of resources, don't see Calcano fight too much. Just uses a Spell Snare on Snapcaster Mage. And we're going to head back Scott Vargas' way. He'll just draw and looks like just pass the turn back.
Great exchange there for Calcano. I mean, I'm sure he would have liked for his Tassiger to stay alive, but being able to have Luis lose a Snapcaster Mage into a Spell Snare there and trade 2 bolts. I mean, just look at the mana that Calcano has and the cards in hand. He is winning the resource advantage, the battle right now.
Scott Vargas is going to draw. Looks like just pass the turn back. Calcano's going to sacrifice his Polluted Delta. I imagine we'll see a charge on the Dreadship Reef, and then the action will continue here in just a moment. Don't have a great look at Christian's hand right now, but it seems like as this game continues to go this way, things are looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, there is no need to rush because he's eventually going to out-resource Luis the way the game is going right now.
I've just been informed by John Martin on Twitter that is Calciform Pools.
Thank
you. The blue-white one. And Salt Crusted Step is the green-white one. That one didn't really get very much play.
Oh, you didn't think it was powerful to ramp out? What is it, Mystic Enforcer? Yeah. I'm not even sure what you're supposed to. I'm not even sure what you're supposed to do with that card in that block.
Spectral Force.
Yeah.
Here it comes. Here's a Kolagon's command. Calcano looks to be returning Tassiger and making Scott Vargas discard. Calcano will draw now. Certainly advantaged right now. There's a copy of Polluted Delta.
And right now, Luis is just getting worn out. He's down to 3 cards in hand. I believe he still has the combo intact, hoping that Calcano taps low at some point, or maybe Luis's hand just gets forced sometime in the near future. Luis drew a lot of copies of Lightning Bolt this game, not a lot in the way of blue cards. And the way that Calcano's played, these Lightning Bolts have not been very effective.
Here is Tassiger yet again. Going to delve away the whole graveyard. The Golden Fang will resolve. Here's a Pestermite. Perhaps Luis feels it's time to make a move.
It's not getting any better. I mean, the writing's on the wall here. Luis can't really maintain any sort of traction in this game for very much longer, and so now seems like a reasonable spot to try to sneak in a kill.
Yeah, Calcano's got the card advantage at this point, Tasigur online, and he's got the mana advantage thanks to that copy of Dreadshaper Reef. That one kind of coming out of nowhere. Just a one-of in his deck, but it is proving to be pretty valuable right now. Scott Vargas going to tap the Reef for the Pester Mite. Now he's reaching for mana, so perhaps it is go time. There is Splinter Twin. And I can't imagine Calcano has nothing here, so we'll see a copy of Go for the Throat. Go after Pester Mite. Scott Vargas will cast a Spell Snare on Go for the Throat. Does Calcano have another answer? He'll use the Reef and cast another copy of Go for the Throat. And it looks like that'll work just fine. So Luis goes for the W, does not get the job done, but his hand is also kind of forced at this point.
Yeah. The Reef is sort of awkward in that you can use the discharge counter's ability even though it's tapped.
It is a touch strange, yes. You're going to see Calcano do it again here in just a moment.
You feel like if the card was made today, it would be, you know, tap this, remove X counters, blah, 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 blah. But
now Calcano has a copy of Deceiver Exarch. Perhaps he's considering going for the combo now. Watery Grave gets tapped from the Deceiver Exarch. Enters that battlefield ability. Calcano will draw. Is it time for Splinter Twin, my friend? With the way he's reaching for mana, it certainly seems like it. There's Splinter Twin. That's going to get the job done. Christian Calcano is going to win game number 1 here over Luis Scott Vargas. The Grixis Twin Mirror goes to Calcano to start things, as he does win game number 1. And we're going to go to the sideboards where things do get a little bit more interesting. We've talked about Blood Moon quite a bit here. Calcano's got 3 on his side, but we're going to actually start with Scott Vargas and his 2 and everything else that he has.
2 copies of Blood Moon, 2 copies of Keranos, God of the Storms, a Spellskite, 3 copies of Tasigur, the Golden Fang, a Dismember, a Pyroclasm, Anger of the Gods, 2 copies of Thoughtseize, 2 copies of Kolaghan's Command. What's going to be interesting here, as always, how much of the combo is staying in on both players' side of the table. Luis can convert fully into a control deck here, or he can sort of split the difference here, leave some of the combo intact, and bring in a couple of his sideboard cards. No matter what, I think he wants 3 copies of Tasigur. We saw how good it was for Calcano to be able to play a very powerful threat for 1 mana in a long game. I think the 2 copies of Thoughtseize fit very nicely in this matchup. The Spellskite is pretty good to bring in here as it's protection against the combo. And if Luis wants to use the combo proactively, he can apply it there as well. I think the Kolaghan's Command is fine in a long game.
I just had things for Calcano. I mentioned the 3 Blood Moons. He also has 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Dispel, 2 copies of Keranos, God of the Storms. A Negate, a Shatterstorm, a Mystical Teachings, a Spellskite, a Vendilion Click, and it is a Staticaster. You can tell he is interested in going long. I love the Mystical Teachings that's in the sideboard.
Yeah, and I think that'll likely come in here alongside the Spellskite, the Vendilion Click, the 2 copies of Dispel, the Negate. I don't know if Keranos is going to be coming in for either one of these players. It feels like a very risky commitment to the board. Tapping 5 mana on your own turn in a matchup where cheap counter spells are floating around and you have the potential to get killed, to me is a little bit too risky. But if both players feel like they want to suit into just a pure control route, bail on the combo altogether, you might see them try to go and win a really long game with something like Keranos. I doubt it, but the option is there.
Yeah, Keranos is very interesting to me in this matchup because I think if it does get into play, it's going to run away with the game. But do you ever have the opportunity to just say, I'm going to tap out and cast this thing, and I hope you don't kill me, or I hope you don't have a remand for it or something like that? It seems like too much can go wrong.
Yeah, part of the problem in this matchup, just with expensive spells in general, is you're looking at a matchup where there's Dispel, Remand, and Cryptic Command. And those cards are just very powerful against expensive sorcery speed stuff. And when you're playing in a matchup where even if you are able to resolve your Keranos, it may open the door for your opponent to kill you with Splinter Twin and Deceiver Exarch, I think it's a very risky card to bring in. It can go bad very easily.
We're going to see how things do line up here for both players as they do continue to sideboard. I think the Blood Moon battle is also a little bit interesting between the 2 of them. Do you think Blood Moon comes on either side?
I don't think so.
Yeah, take a look at Calcano's deck list. Again, he's got 4 islands, a mountain, and a swamp, which seems to be kind of the standard of what people are doing nowadays with this mana base. And I would be surprised if either player brings it in.
Especially on Calcano's side when he has the Reef in his deck, which I know it's just 1 land, it seems innocuous. But if that comes up like you saw that game, it's a big edge. I mean, these matchups are a lot about mana and mana efficiency. And I'm not looking to shut off the Dreadship Reef if I'm in Calcano's position.
I actually like the Reef a lot. It's kind of a one of land in this deck. I don't think you can play many copies of that card, but the one that you do draw, as we saw in the last game, and it's matchup specific, it can be very, very good.
And I think that Calcano has made some concessions to his mana base to that end. You see Go for the Throat here instead of Terminate, and the Reef might be part of that. He's just working with one less dual land that can generate red mana.
A lot of the time, you'll find a card like Desolate Lighthouse in the deck is maybe your one in value land. Perhaps Dreadship Reef is better than that card.
I mean, they are kind of similar insofar as they play very well in games that are dragged out. But I think in that particular game, it was much more powerful for Calcano to have the Reef than Desolate Lighthouse would have been. Because once he started to out-mana Luis, he could really bully him.
Scott Vargas going to very quickly take a mulligan and not like what he saw. We'll see if Calcano is happy with his opening hand. Looks like he is happy enough that he will keep. We'll be waiting on Luis here to see if he can find a better 6-card hand. Of course, if you guys do want to get in touch with Patrick or I in the sideboard, excuse me, in the booth here. We're not in the sideboard. That's where Ken and Nick are. At MTG Live, hashtag GPCharlotte all weekend long. You can also send your tweets directly at me, at Cedric A. Phillips, or at Patrick, at Basic Mountain. Taking your questions in between rounds. Sometimes during the games, too. And we love hearing from you guys as we watch Christian Calcano and Luis Scott Vargas do battle here in game number 2 of the Grixis Twin Mirror. Looks to be a very popular deck this weekend.
No surprise.
Not at all. I think everyone's kind of moved away from Blue-Red Twin now, too. I think everyone just feels that the Black Splash is really good and almost kind of a free roll.
Well, I don't know if it's free. There are some matchups, you play against Burn. Those extra lands do come back to haunt you, for example. But I think this deck needs the flexibility to sideboard into the control deck when appropriate, and the black cards are really important in enabling that.
A little Serum Visions action here for Scott Vargas off of Water Grave. That's why he's at 17. We'll see how he wants to scry as he's already drawn his card. Looks like he'll split the difference, one on top, one on bottom. We're going to head Calcano's way. Just a Bloodstained Mire and a passing of the turn. Scott Vargas picked up a copy of Polluted Delta. He'll deploy the land. And he'll just pass the turn back as Calcano will sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire, go down to 19. And I imagine we'll have a land enter the battlefield tapped here in just a moment. And that's his Steam Vents. Calcano will take a draw step. Remember, he kept 7 while Scott Vargas is on 6.
Attention Magic players.
Calcano going to sacrifice his Polluted Delta. Going to go to 18 at the very least. Perhaps more. It'll just be a basic island, so 18 it is. And a Serum Visions. So he'll start by drawing a card. Now we'll see how Calcano wants to sky. Remember, Luis kept on top with his Serum Visions, so he found something he liked when he played that sorcery.
I think it was land number 2.
That's a good thing to keep.
Yeah.
Scott Vargas will draw.
And if you see Luis not sacrifice that Polluted Delta, that to me indicates he's maybe a little land light here, not looking to thin his deck out of lands.
Well, he's sacrificing that Delta now. We'll see what land he wants to get. He'll go with Steam Vents, so all the colors online at this point. Though, oddly enough, Luis is a little bit open up to Blood Moon here, though it'd be surprising if Calcano did board them in. Here's a copy of Snapcaster Mage. Just a passing of the turn.
It's a pretty sad state of affairs there for Luis if he's playing a Snapcaster Mage there for on 2 lands there with a Serum Visions in the graveyard.
Yep. You can tell things have not come together for him this game.
Probably means he has another copy of Snapcaster Mage in hand. Seems a little early to be firing off the Snapcaster for nothing.
Also something to return with Colgan's command too,
Yep.
if it does get killed, so it does make some sense. There's Snapcaster Mage for Calcano. He's going to flashback a Serum Visions. Keep working his way through his deck. He'll start by drawing a card, now he'll scry 2. We head back Scott Vargas' way. Can he find a land? He'll start by attacking with Snapcaster Mage. Well, he did find an island. It's not so bad. There is the island. And now here's Tassiger. So Luis getting a little bit of work done here.
And that would also explain the Snapcaster Mage play from the previous turn. Was going to nuke his graveyard anyway. So Snapcaster Mage wasn't going to do a lot for several turns. And with Luis missing land drops, he just doesn't have the flexibility to keep it in his hand indefinitely.
And perhaps he knew his mana was going to be tied up for a little bit.
Right.
Either way, the 4/5 is on the battlefield right now. Calcano, he's not having many land issues at this point. Yes, he's cast Serum Visions a few times this game. Scott Vargas will draw. Sulfur falls. That's the land he has. Attack with both of his creatures. Here comes Tasker and Snapcaster Mage. Looks like Snapcaster Mage is going to get in front of a Tasker. I smell a lightning bolt.
Most likely.
There is lightning bolt to go after Tasker. See if Scott Vargas has the interest in maybe defending. Does have a copy of Cryptic Command in his hand, but also has Kolaghan's Command to get Tasker back, perhaps.
He also might die if he taps out.
Which is actually what he's going to do. He's going to return Serum Visions with Tasker's ability, and he does have the potential to just die here.
Yep. I mean, this is the risk of playing against Twin. If Calcano's thinking about it, it means Luis is probably not dead.
Looks like Calcano might be sacrificing that Scalding Tarn. We'll see. I mean, traditionally, players will sideboard into just a pure control deck in this matchup, and they don't really leave in much to the combo, but like we've said many times this weekend, and we will continue to say, you're really just guessing on what they're going to do.
The thing is, you know, even though it's a risk on Luis's side, what else is he supposed to do? Is he just supposed to hang tight here for the entire game, leave up mana at all times and never advance his board? He's got to try to treat this like a normal game to some respect, generate a little bit of card advantage, try to pull out of his mulligan, and hope that he doesn't die.
Oh, there's Kolaghan's Command. Snapcaster Mage coming back to Calcano's hand, and he kills Snapcaster Mage with the other half of that powerful rare. It's Calcano we go. Feels like he's in the driver's seat right now. Perhaps a little delve action here, as he does organize his graveyard. Might just be Snapcaster Mage, though. There's Tassiger. Gonna delve away a couple of cards. Looks like he's just gonna leave Kolaghan's Command and pass the turn back with 2 mana at the ready.
Pretty good synergy with Snapcaster Mage, so this game is shaping up to go on for a while.
Doesn't seem like a short one. There's land number 5 for Scott Vargas. It's a basic mountain.
Patrick Seaman to the Grand Prix stage, please. Patrick Seaman to the Grand Prix stage.
Cryptic Command right now in Scott Vargas' hand. He's got to figure out how to navigate things right now, however. He's a little bit behind on this board.
Interesting thing, Cryptic Command is really powerful, obviously, and seems especially good in the Blue Bears. I've seen a lot of people started here advocating taking it out because it's just so bad against the other counterspells that exist. It's really bad against the spell.
Horrible.
Not good against negate.
Yeah. Not something people enjoy getting remanded either.
No.
Speaking of Dispel, I'll take care of Cryptic Command. The follow-up? Serum Visions. Scott Vargas will draw, and now it's time to scry yet again.
Now, there's probably worse cards in the deck to take out than Cryptic Command, and 1 Cryptic in the deck, 2 Cryptics probably not going to hurt you too much, but you can see, in terms of what matters in these kind of mirror matches, Cryptic Command is low on the list, even though at first it would seem like, yeah, that's just super flexible source of card advantage and utility. 4 mana is tough to resolve.
Attention Magic players, if you signed up for Modern Masters Draft number 3.
Tasker came across last turn for Calcano. That's why Scott Vargas is down to 10. Life totals in favor of Calcano right now. The lands are not, and then the cards are close. But Luis has got some work to do. He's got his back against the wall at this point. Here's 2 mana. Perhaps the Snapcaster Mage is on the way. It is. And there's the very powerful spell snare. These exchanges not going well for Luis right now.
Yeah, I feel like anytime there's been a stack generated here, Christian's been getting the better end of it because he's played a much more mana-efficient game.
Scott Vargas going to play his defense untapped, go down to 8 in the process, pass the turn back over Calcano. Calcano going to draw. And here comes Tassiger. Scott Vargas is down to 4. That's Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt range now. Or Kolaghan's Command, deal 2 to you. Snapcaster that. Let's see what this is going to be. It's Kolaghan's Command.
Magic players in the new Modern Challenge, your pairings have been posted. Please find your seat. Players in the new Modern Challenge, your pairings have now been posted. Please find your seat.
We'll see what mode Scott Vargas is selecting here. Because this is certainly making Calcano think quite a bit.
Yep. It gets really interesting if this involves 2 damage to Tassiger.
Yes.
Looks like he just went with Raise Dead and discard a card.
Okay. Calcano discarded a Splinter Twin Tassigers back to the grip. Where are we going to start? We'll start with the Serum Visions. Take a draw. Now scry 2. And Scott Vargas facing lethal. Given that he's at 4, Serum Vision's done resolving. Now here comes Tassiger. See if he gets to leave anything nice behind.
Head judge to the Grand Prix stage at your convenience, please. Head judge to the Grand Prix stage at your convenience, please.
So a Snapcaster Mage and a Serum Visions are what's left. He's exiled the rest. See if this resolves.
Be a really powerful spot for Remand if they're still in Calcano's deck, as Luis only with the single black mana.
Yep. 4 copies of Remand in Calcano's main deck this week, and not much of a surprise there. There's Cryptic Command. There's Remand on Cryptic Command. So Calcano will be able to use that next turn. Pass the turn back. Will Scott Vargas over to Calcano. That is a go for the throat. This is a spell snare. Snapcaster Mage. Spell snare that as well. What makes that interesting is had Calcano perhaps just gone for the Cryptic Command, maybe he gets a W there.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's so hard to play around everything.
Yeah.
If he goes for a Cryptic Command and it's Dispel,
Yep.
it's, looks really bad too.
Either way, Luis is still alive here. Now here's a Vendilion click. Keranos, Snapcaster Mage, and Cryptic Command.
This is a tough hand for Luis to see because Calcano is threatening the kill next turn, again with that Cryptic Command. And Calcano can also pivot and just say, all right, Keranos, go, and try to bury him that way.
Yep. Luis is going to take the Cryptic Command. That means a mystery card's coming here for Calcano. What we do know is that he's left with Keranos and Snapcaster Mage. A land there for Scott Vargas. That means he can activate Tassiger.
But the shields are down. No
Yes,
cards in hand.
Yes, they are. Calcano going to take a look at the graveyard for that Snapcaster Mage that he has. Something as simple as Snapcaster Mage would go for the throat, kill Tasker coming to the red zone.
Yep.
Could be the play this turn.
Luis then has to chump block with the Vendilion click, and he's drawing pretty slim at that point.
Perhaps he goes another route. Doesn't seem like the worst turn to maybe try to get Keranos into play and play for a little bit longer game that you can't lose.
I like being proactive here. Calcano's at 11, and Vendilion click starts attacking the air. So his situation is not a guaranteed lock over the next couple turns.
Tasker activation turns over a couple of cards, Deceiver Exarch among them. However, Thoughtseize is what Scott Vargas will be getting back. What a nice guy Calcano is.
Very thoughtful of him.
Scott Vargas will draw. Thoughtseize in hand. He's going through his graveyard here, so perhaps he's found something to keep him alive. Feels like a Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, looks like it. I mean, Luis is not the type of guy to go through the motions here if he didn't draw something that mattered.
Yeah, it is a Snapcaster Mage. Serum Vision is going to need to supply a lot of help here. He'll flash that back. Take a draw. Now it's time to scry. Left him on top pretty quick. He'll pass the turn back. Falsi's in hand. Calcano will take a draw step. We know about the Keranos in hand. There's the attack. Pretty easy jump block. Down to 2 goes Scott Vargas. Yeah, and you can see Luis's hand. It was just a fetch land. He knows what's on top of his deck, and he will concede the game. Christian Calcano is going to win this match here over Luis Scott Vargas, 2-0. The Grixis Twin Mirror goes to the player on the left, and for the calculator, he's 4-0 to start this Grand Prix.